This is a regular scheduled meeting. The place, time, and agenda of the meeting has been provided to the local media. To each member of the governing body was posted on the city web page and the state public meetings web page. We'll go ahead and do a roll call, starting with Dave Labram.
Here.
Dustin White.
Here.
David Baird.
Here.
Aaron Wade.
Here.
And Joe Burdick has been asked to be excused. He's out in the city on business, so we'll excuse him tonight. We'd like to open with a prayer. Dustin has agreed to give us the prayer, and then if everyone would follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we come before Thee at this time, give Thee thanks for all that we have. We thank Thee for this city in which we live and the community and neighbors and friends that we're surrounded by. Pray that as we discuss and anticipate the future, that the decisions we make will make life simpler and easier on each other. Please help us to use wisdom and listen to Thy guidance as we make decisions to help benefit the citizens who live in our city. We thank Thee for those who serve to keep us safe and to protect us. We pray that Thou bless and watch over them. We pray for Thy guidance to be upon those who would like to participate this evening, that they will be able to express their thoughts and desires the way they would like to. And again, we thank Thee for all that we have. Pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We, again, are grateful for everyone being here tonight. We'd like to remind the public that we do have a public comment period at the beginning of each meeting now for 15 minutes. Anyone that would like to address the council is more than welcome to come forward. We ask that you state your name and for the record, and we give you up to 3 minutes for that if anybody would like to take an opportunity for that at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on. The first item up, we have Rebecca Pittman here. As many of you know, or some of you know, the council, I served on the Housing Authority Board previous to being elected, and since the election I needed to appoint somebody in my position there. And we have Cindy here with Housing Authority with us also. We advertised for that position and didn't get a lot of interest, but Rebecca was kind enough to accept the appointment. And so I would entertain a motion from the council that we appoint Rebecca Pittman in my stead as the commissioner on the Housing Authority Board.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dustin White, second by Dave Labram. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on this. Dave?
Yes.
Affirmative. Dustin?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
4 ayes. And you chose obviously not. So, motion passes, and you're our newest member. Is there anything that you would like to say? We give you 3 minutes already at the beginning of the meeting, but
I need to
Oh.
swear her in.
all right, let's do that.
So I guess there is something.
Yes,
Hey, you just
I do.
swear and raise your hand. Did you? I don't want you. Her face, not mine. Raise your right hand. I, Rebecca Pittman,
I, Rebecca Pittman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Next item, we have planning and zoning appointment and reappointment discussion. Steve, would you like to lead us off in that discussion?
So we have what we think is members' terms expiring, and it's time to deal with that. And looking into things, I kind of remember when I was first asked that I'd be a 4-year term and then a 3-year term, and I was reappointed as a 3-year term, as was Nancy Winder. And so I was looking into some things, and under chapter 2.36.020 of our city code, it says, the terms of the planning commission shall be staggered. Each member of the planning commission shall serve for a term of 3 years and until his successor is appointed, provided that the term of the first member shall be such that the terms of 2 members shall expire each year. It goes on, it says, the term shall begin on or before the first Monday in February of each year. And then vacancies shall be promptly filled, same, and they would be the remainder of that expired term. And the members may be reappointed for up to 4 terms. That's under chapter 2. In chapter 17, which is where planning and zoning stuff is, kind of highlight same kind of stuff, 4 years, but in here this says the term of 1 member shall expire each year, so every year we should be getting a new member, whereas over here we should have 2 members every year. And then they can serve a maximum of 4 consecutive terms, where it just says 4 terms in the other, and so there's a difference there. Terms shall begin on the first day of July versus February, and then vacancies shall be filled and all that. And it says the unexpired term shall not be counted towards the maximum number of terms. So we have these discrepancies. I was told that chapter 2 has been taken care of, and that's current, but the problem is regardless what code it is, they're all current. Whether one was new or updated or not, they're all current, and so we have this discrepancy. So as chair of planning and zoning, I'd like some input as to which one we really want to do, whether it's a 3-year term in that starts in February's, or a 4-year term that starts in July, something to straighten these out, so we don't have these conflicts.
This is something that we ran into. We realized that there were a couple of individuals that were most likely up for reappointment, but my feeling was I wanted to bring it before the council too, to make sure whether we wanted to stick with the 3-year, that's probably the newer ordinance, is that correct?
Right.
Or if we wanted to do the 4-year, but either way we want to just have a brief discussion on that and see what the feeling was with the council, and then once we get the recommendation from the council, Ryan could we could draft the ordinance and get the ordinance changed so everything's consistent across the board. So
one of the items when we reviewed Title II, we were aware that 17 was different, and that's why, in the motion, we made sure that it indicated specifically that they were 3-year terms. So one of the things we wanted to make sure of is that it was clear at that point when the planning commission was appointed.
How many are on the board, too?
What's that?
How many are on?
7.
7. Are there 7?
And 2 are up right now, is that correct?
And we need to remember that Gwen Milan, hers was a filling Bill Hall spot, you know, and so
So there would be 3 up.
and so we really need to look at where.
Quinn Ballon and Chris Squire would be up for this one.
We need to look at things, yeah.
Well, to speak to that, Mayor, a few of us here were on that. Last year we had a discussion about 3 years. I like the 3-year model. I appreciate the fact we've been discovered that we have some discrepancy. We need to clean it up. I would just move that we would move to the 3-year model. Draft ordinance accordingly.
I'll second that motion.
On that, as you're going through the code, things like this could have been caught if it was known, you know, where when the state does a new code, if it affects chapter 2, they're looking to see if it affects chapter 10, 5, you know, all that down the road. And I think
I want to address your concern there. We became aware of, well, actually, it's been a number of years ago.
after 2 was gone through.
No, it was before. We realized that the code had not been completely gone through to make sure that we were currently doing, or that the code reflected what we were currently doing. And so I went through it briefly and found many places. It's a daunting task. Some of these things you're bringing up we're not unaware of, but council's job is to go through, because it was legislated by, to go through and make sure that it does reflect what we're doing. It's a process we've been in the middle of for a while, and it's still gonna take a while, as fast as these guys wanna go.
Sure.
So we're not totally unaware. It's not something you.
Sure. I think this is a good opportunity, at least where it's in front of us, and we appreciate the staff's work on that too. We understand that the staff has worked hard in getting a lot of these conflicts resolved. While we do have the appointments to make and things, I think that'd be a good opportunity to get it cleaned up. And we do have a motion on the table to approve the 3-year, and which is in 17, Title 17.
It would
Change
keep Title
chapter
17, it would keep
17.
Title 2 and fix Title 17.
Keep Title 2 and change 17. We have a second. Any other discussion? Do you have any comment as to your preference and why?
You know, there's pluses and minuses. 16 years is a long time if you serve 4 terms. With the 4-year, 12 years isn't as long. You know, I mean, one thing I would say, add the consecutive part into chapter 2. I mean, these are things that be hashed out. But 3 years would be fine. I think it'd be good to rotate a little more often, and you know, some people may not feel that a 4-year commitment is something they can do.
Can you tell us who's been on the planning and zoning the longest, and how many years have they been there?
Nancy or Bob?
Been in there for quite a while.
Yeah, it'd be Bob or Nancy, and then it'd be me, and then everyone else came after me.
So most not more than 4 years.
Yeah, if we were doing the 4-year model, I'd actually be finishing my first term
Okay.
versus a year into my second. You know, so that's kind of one of the things. But there's only 2 that have been there longer than me
Okay.
right now.
If I might interject something, as I'm looking at it from a mayor standpoint and being able to appoint people, I know there's the difference between February on the one ordinance and July. Is it July on the other? For me, it might be nice if it is a 3-year, stick with that. But if we could bump that reappointment date to July, that would give whoever the new council time to come in and figure things out before they had appointments. I don't know if maybe that's not that big of a deal, but
I would agree with that. It would help.
Seems
You
like
know, the new people on that they feel like they have a say and kind of be in the know of what's going on.
Before they're having to make appointments.
It'd be a great time to make that adjustment. I'd agree on that. I'd call for a vote. And with that correction, to make it July.
Okay.
One
All right.
item that you might consider is a lot of the county board appointments are at the end of December, 1st of January. So at that period of time, a lot of the board appointments are being done
So that-
during winter instead of July. It would be an off one for other boards. But we could make that, that's what the council
You know-
wanted. It just fits the time period of other board appointments.
Gotcha.
But however you like. You want July?
I'm,
The thought process there that was incorporated was the discussion of the timeliness of boards. The experience we've had just in getting applicants for boards is difficult anytime, but there seems to be a little bit more response in the winter months. So with respect to that, I like the February timeline. I think, as a board member expires,
Should put it at the end of
everyone
February.
has to be looking a few months ahead of time, advertising that and bringing that along, whether it's, no matter what month the appointment is. I just think our applicant pool could be better if we have it in the winter months. That's why I like February, but
Was it the 1st of February or the end?
I think it says the first right now.
It says.
What if we put it at the end of February?
Before the, on or
us 60.
begin the first Monday in February.
If we put it at the end of February, that gives adequate time for the council
So you
to
could
do
put
those, and
the
the
1st of
administration
March.
could be asking for applicants even before that, so.
So-
Basically, the 1st of March. Make it easier.
Let me
calendar.
withdraw my motion there and create another motion. We move forward with the 3-year terms with 1st of March being the appointment time.
so we have a motion on the table for the 1st of March and 3-year terms.
I'll second that.
Second by Dave Baird. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll go ahead and get that ordinance and all those inconsistencies fixed, and everything.
To get that.
We'll have a public hearing and
Thank you, Steve.
officially get it done, so. Thanks, Steve. Next item was the Roosevelt 50 Flags of Freedom Memorial Fund. Mike Stengel, he called just prior to the meeting and thought that it was next week, so he's not going to be here. But I can hopefully give a brief overview of what he was thinking or what he was trying to accomplish, and then if there's anybody that has any comment, we'd be glad to hear that also. So one of the things that he wanted to bring up, and I'm speaking for him the best I can, is that a lot of the flagpoles, obviously there's some trees and things like that have overgrown in the cemetery, so he wanted to see what we could do as a city to take care of some of those issues. Also wanted to become involved with helping put up the flags and making sure that was taken care of. We did give him some direction prior to the meeting to get with the Rotary Club, who's been involved with trying to create a memorial there near the cemetery. We've asked him to get with the American Legion and with a few others that were involved. And I'm not sure if he was able to make contact with some of those groups, but that was the directive that we gave him. And anyway, so that's kind of what he was looking at, is to ensure that we have adequate funds to take care of that memorial. He was offering his help as far as whatever he could do to help make sure that the flags were put up at least each time a veteran passes, and Veterans Day and other holidays that would be appropriate. So Beverly, I know I read your letter and sure appreciate all that you guys have done there. Yeah. And maybe you could speak to that. I don't know, what help might be needed there, or what we could do as a city and a community to help with some of those things, but we definitely want to take care of our
Well,
veterans.
we also all have copies of what Mr. Stengel had to say. And in the 22 years that we've been doing this, that's the first negative comment or anything regarding what we've done. In the 22 years that we've been doing this, we have put the flags up for 196 veterans. We may have missed 2 due to miscommunication. We've also been very adamant about throwing in the flags on 4th of July and on Veterans Day and the 3-day Memorial Weekend and any other day that we deem as fit. When someone, we as a committee decides who wants to be on our Veterans Memorial Committee, which has been organized since 1996. We do have a proper account, and people have donated thousands of dollars. Everything that's been done down there has been donated. So it's not our project or the city's project. That project belongs to all the people of the UN Basin. I've had people come to my door with a $5 bill. I've had people come to my door with $1,000 checks. And we have never, ever lacked for funds to do whatever we needed to do. We needed to buy new flags, and we wanted to get those up for Veterans Day this year. And all we did was put a piece in the paper and put it on the radio, and we had the money in a week. So we have money in an account. We know that there are flagpoles that need to be painted on the side by the highway, and we do that every year, whenever we see that it's necessary. So in spite of what Mr. Stengel says, we do maintain, we do keep that project up. We do have money for it, and we are dedicated to that project.
Okay.
You know, like I said, this is the first time in 22 years we've ever heard anything at all negative.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can live in this town for 6 years and not see the flags be up any of the days we put them up. And he mentions in his memo 6 years. Well, we put up the flags 56 times for veterans during those 6 years. I don't know how you can't see them. But anyway, regardless. If he wants to do another project or anybody else wants to do one, we don't care. He can do whatever he wants, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to keep that project going. We're going to continue to maintain it. I remember the very night Dean Bruff and Joe Felsted came before council, because I sat in that chair right down there. Steve Yak, another member, was sitting in the chair where Mr. White is. And they asked for approval to use the city property for this memorial. And the council unanimously gave approval for that. I don't think we've ever asked the city for anything other than Drew Eschler has been so good to support us and help us. And I would hope the city would find it in their hearts and their pocketbooks to give money to get those trees out, because they are in the way, they are causing problems. And I understand from lack of funds, he hasn't been able to do that. So we really appreciate Drew for the kindness and the goodness that he has shown with us and the people of the community. Like I say, Mr. Stengel or whoever wants can do whatever they want, because that's what we're going to do. So.
I would say my dad asked me to come because, I mean, he's a temple worker tonight, and, you know, he's been a part of the program from the get-go, and, you know, he's put a ton of money, a ton of time, a ton of effort. I think I remember painting poles. I remember the first time we ever put them up. You know, it's always been a sense of pride for me and my family. My dad's a veteran. So, probably a little bit of a non-issue. I don't understand where his divisiveness comes from. I may be just trying to solve a problem, but there's some very good organizations to recognize the veterans. If you really understand exactly what they do, my dad spends hours when he was the company commander, and those men spend hours down there making sure that they don't miss a flag on one veteran during Memorial Day. They put time and effort into it. So if we can work with those people, and that's what I would tell my community, if we can work with these people and better it, because they do have the mindset of, they want to recognize, and they have a very sense of patriotic sense and pride for the veterans. So Yeah, we can do more for sure, but they sure, I mean, I don't know if you ever seen my dad, they put them up by themselves, 50 flags, you know,
Yeah.
and it's, so, you know, probably, he was glad he wasn't here, because he was a little bit warmed up, a little bit of Wyoming, you know what I mean?
We're probably
But,
glad he wasn't here then either.
But no, I would say that, if
I think,
there's problem, the problem is, there isn't really a problem there. Why are we trying to drum up problems? And I don't get that. And I don't think this is the place and time for it. I think when you can work with people and not want to just pick scabs and make them bleed would be my sense of what this is. Because
yeah.
there isn't a problem. They're up at they don't, like I said, they don't miss the veterans. They don't miss anything that's poignant to veterans. And to show that lack of respect towards the veterans that have worked for 22 years, was it 22 years?
22 years, yes.
That's pretty amazing that anything's lasted that long, so.
No, I don't disagree, and I don't know what his intent or his feeling was. But I do know part of his intent was to help. He's heard, and many people have even talked about it. Russ Cowan was in pushing a committee forward that would do a memorial, an actual memorial kind of like Duchesne has. And I know that was one of his intents, is to figure out how to do that.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah,
I don't know if you received my letter or not, but
I haven't seen it.
We did have a committee put together of a councilman, myself, and Russ Cowan, among 8 others.
Sure, I was part of that.
Yes, you were. And we were driven. We had a project in the works. We had property donated by the city within our rest area, our roadside park, that was deemed for that project. And it still is. But with the economy as such, with the decline, we didn't have the funding to proceed with that project. It was upwards of $400,000.
Wow.
So it wasn't something that we wanted to pick apart and just do mediocre. We wanted to do it right. So we dissolved that committee. At that time, we felt it'd be best to table that for now until the economy is bounced back as such to follow that project up. One thing I would like to mention as well is Troy, these people are amazing. They devote their time, and early in the morning, snow, it doesn't matter. They're there putting flags up, and they do a dang good job, and they need recognized for the service they do.
Agree.
Maybe
Thanks,
I'd like
Chris.
to speak to that for just a minute.
Sure.
I'd just like to add some positive comments as well. I really appreciate what this committee does. I had a little teeny tiny part of that 22 years ago, helping Joe Philstud gather poles. And I watched that grow from the gathering of poles after the council approved it to what it is today, and I've been down there and enjoyed those flags, and just want this committee to know how much we appreciate their dedication, their service to the country. And sheer dedication to carrying that project forward. I mean, it's amazing. I appreciate what Mr. Rohr said of the dedication that takes place there, to see that there are flags in place, to see they're in good repair, to see that they're painted well. I think we've got to find money to take care of the tree problem. That's what the city can do.
Yeah.
But as far as the committee, I think the committee's in place. I think they do a fantastic job, and my recommendation would be that if Mike would like to join them to find a way to move forward positively in doing something very positive to support the effort.
Well, Mr. Stadios going to have to talk to us about that.
We'll send him your way. One of the things I'd like to add to is, again, just to reiterate, my grandpa was a veteran, and I appreciate all veteran service. One of the things that came to mind is this, it's not even an issue, but this subject came up, was how do we help, or how can we get involved to help you guys if you need help doing some of those things. I can think of scout troops that would love to have an Eagle project that would paint the poles, or to help do some fundraising or do some things like that. And I think it helps them build a respect also for those type.
And if I could just add to that, we have had scout groups come, that we've contacted, and they helped us put up flags, taped them down. Mr. Eschler indicated that we could involve scout groups in painting the poles.
Yeah,
And we'd like to do that, and just to kind of support what Mr. Rohr has said, there's not a member here who hasn't had to put those flags up by themselves. And the thing of it is, if it's a veteran, they're going to have those flags up, and no matter what happens, so don't get in our way.
Yeah. Well, my thing is this, I don't know how one person puts up 50 flags anyway, so I'm thinking, how do we help? How do we?
It's 50 US flags and 50 state flags.
Yeah.
And we've done it,
Yeah.
because that's what we do.
And that was my thought is, you know, as we move forward, if we can get the trees trimmed and help you guys that way. I have scout troops that are always asking for service projects and things to do. And I've only been in here, I've had 3 or 4 scouts already ask for service project. And those are things that they can definitely do and help alleviate some of that burden. I would like to see some scout troops putting the flags up so it doesn't fall on, you know.
We're in it for the long
Yeah,
haul.
I know you are. I know you are,
And
but
we'd sure be glad, we welcome your help.
yeah,
But
we'd love.
you gotta let us know. So we
Yeah,
can-
we'd love to get you the help that you need as you need it.
Mayor,
And,
may I say something too?
And yeah, and just, you know, whatever you need, it is a great service that you do for our community. And we just want to make it ease some of the burden, I guess, and be, you know, helpful in that, and what we can
Well, we
do.
do it because we love it and we've been dedicated to it. And, excuse me, but I notice you don't have a microphone. Do you not want to give the radio a microphone? That's one thing you're never supposed to do. Anyway, these guys may have something to say.
Oh, you talking here? Yeah, if, you know, we've got kind of a short meeting, so if there are any, we'll let Dave, he's asked, we'll let him.
I just wanted to likewise thank you. I was on the sidelines with Gary and Joe and on some things and financially in our business, but I've got to help back in the day a few times, and I never did 50 by myself. The few that I did, I thought how grateful I am for people that do this, and hopefully it never gets directly under the city government, that it stays like you were doing it as volunteers. And I think I was shocked at the letter personally too, and I was interested to hear his side tonight more that way. But I just commend you, and I think our community, that's all I've ever heard. Lots of outside visitors when they come on a holiday or memorial, how complimentary they are, those flags. And I know it's motivated other memorial cemeteries to do such things because of what you've had the vision. So thank you. Thank you for being veterans. May we not create more veterans in the future. You know, that's the thing about it all. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You know, when we started this, when we come to the city, we didn't come to the city for support, for monetary support. We wanted, we felt we could do it ourselves when we have done.
Sure.
And so we don't want the city to think we're, I mean, you could help, and you will, and you can, but it's something that we didn't want to put the burden on the city at all.
Yeah.
I think you only asked for permission.
Yeah.
That's really what's the deal, wasn't it, to do it?
That's what we asked for.
And I appreciate that. And my intent in you know, with the trees and things and what we can do to help, I think we should. I really like the fact that it is a community effort, and I would like to see, that's why I like to see the scouts and those that are the young people coming up, and to learn to appreciate what's been done for them, and to keep it as
Maybe keep it going in the future, yes.
yeah, as something like that, and not a city-funded thing, other than taking care of the grounds that they're on and making sure that they're presentable so that those flags look good and are well displayed. So that was my feeling with getting the scouts and those entities involved, that they're just service oriented also. But we do need to, as a city, I feel, to make sure that we do our part to make sure that that is presentable and looks good. So.
Maybe that's something, Mayor, that Drew could have done, is get some estimates on that, and so we could get it presented and get something doing on trimming the trees or removing trees so that the work can be done.
And with that, I don't know the scope of Eagle Scout projects, but I have a chainsaw.
It's a big project.
and I'm sure we could get.
Big trees, yeah.
The problem is they both are grown. They were planted there temporary 20 years ago. They're
Yeah.
poplar trees, and you know how poplar trees grow. There's power lines, there's flagpoles, there's headstones. So it's gonna take some.
I think I agree. It's
Okay.
a big project.
We're saving, I think it's time.
And we've talked about it as a staff,
That'd be a
we've
good
talked
time.
about it and working on pricing. And
It's a pretty dry winter.
Yeah. Well, let's, if you'll continue on that, give us an idea, then I'd like to see it looking good by Memorial Day, by May.
Yes.
So if we can get something done by then. Brady, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna see if you guys had talked to Kim already. I'm sure he would love to donate his time and help out.
I'll let him know that you volunteered.
He'd love to do it, and it would make it very reasonable,
Yeah.
because he does lots of
He does
community.
a lot of stuff like that, and that's it, and we can make it a community effort. That's is it Mr. Bruff? You know what he mentioned is true. We don't want it to fall on it and be a government or a city thing. We want it to be a community thing, and it always has been, obviously, and it's worked great. And we want to make sure that there's continuity with that. And getting these younger generations involved is a good way to do that. So.
That would be Mr. Scholes, he's the younger.
That's right.
Well, you better start recruiting. All right. Any other comment? Appreciate everybody's comment to this point, and you know, I know there's some concerns by some that brought up, and some of those are based and have basis, and some don't, and so we appreciate your patience with others as well, as some things are brought forward. So appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Appreciate all you
That
do.
was just a huge thing when it happened and was fulfilled, and it has been. I mean, it was
It's a big
it was
list.
one of those big things, moments, and high water marks, and
And it has never faltered.
That's
Probably
right.
the most important thing is
It didn't.
Never faltered.
it's amazing one person changing all the flags on.
Yeah.
I know you've done it, but it's still amazing.
So what Dave said is just calling one, putting those up. I mean, Councilman.
I would say as a staff, we've never had to pick up the slack, ever.
Yeah.
Never have had to
It
pick
sure
up.
helped us.
We appreciate it.
Well, it sounds like we have some good work ahead of us to get that ready for spring. So, purchase orders. Has everyone?
Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Thanks again.
Yeah,
Everybody have a chance to look over the purchase orders?
We've got it started. You want to?
I passed.
Oh,
I had
that's another one.
signed that one.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No matter.
We have a motion by Aaron Wake to approve. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Second by Dustin White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks,
Report-
Troy.
Thank you. guys.
Thanks for your service on the city council.
Appreciate it.
Purchase order. We already did that one. Reports from standing committees. Dave, do you have anything to report?
Just that we met the mayor and some city councilmen and some of the city staff working on preparations of negotiations with Johnson Water, and it was really good and moving forward on that. That's the only standing one I've been to, so that's
Okay. Really quickly, Aaron reminded me, we haven't approved the minutes yet, and since we just did the
Oh.
purchase orders, could we do that? Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
yes.
Are there any questions or changes on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? And page 5?
Just one, Mayor, on page 1.
Okay.
I believe in the bottom paragraph, I think there was an addendum of a year's timeline for that motion. There was a lot of discussion on the motion.
Okay, it says, made a motion to amend the motion to limit the time period to 1 year.
Okay, I just missed that, I'm sorry. It's there.
Any other corrections? If not, I entertain a motion to approve minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by David Labram, second.
Seconded?
Second by Aaron, Councilman Waite. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So going back to your comment, Councilman Labram, with the Johnson Water, I have visited with Dixon a little further. Not a lot, just seen him at a or the UBAG meeting yesterday and visited with him a little bit. They're anticipating we come back with a proposal. I explained to him it will take a little bit of time because we are checking all of our avenues. We're researching all of our options to make sure that we have as much good information as possible before we would come back to them. So,
Great. And were you gonna meet with like one of the board too, like we talked about, you know,
yeah,
members to?
We have a meeting on the 13th with Grant. He's going to discuss with us a little bit more about a line change, boundary change. But then at the same time, I have scheduled an appointment with John Zillis to go over some more of the finances and things like that to see what a water exchange would include. So, Dustin, do you have anything to report?
No, went to the planning and zoning meeting last week. They discussed some issues with some the food trailers around town, make sure that parking and stop signs and roadways are kept clear and open. And I believe that it all is addressed in their business license, but if there were a couple of places that might have been an issue that they were going to follow up with and remind them of those things. And
There are some that are really on a corner down on 200 North, 400 East. That I mean, it shouldn't be there.
Blocks
It's
your
way
view.
well. It's a hazardous. You can't see it. It's in a red zone down there, so it really causes some traffic.
Do we have any an ordinance?
There should be, I would think, about
We
that.
don't have anything on that.
There's nothing as far as where they can be and stuff. The thing we discussed was the way, not necessarily the food vendor themselves, it's their patrons.
The parking.
The parking for the patrons and stuff, and that's where the issue is with, to me, kind of is an enforcement thing, a little stricter enforcement there, and then a reminder with the vendor himself that this is what is happening, your business is causing this issue. We've talked about setbacks with some other vendors off the highway, and really, back when we were talking about stuff with Pappy's out by Taco Bell, setbacks are actually set by a city. UDOT doesn't have any setbacks as where they need to be as far as off the highway, so we talked about that.
There is on like blocking visibility around corners, and that's where this one it's a hazard. But anyway,
Our building inspector that helps us with zoning, the first initial contact, he has been down to talk to him about it, tell him about the cars, took the information from planning and zoning, was discussed that. If we have a blocking and we do that, then it's in the police will be the next one to follow, but we generally follow a light response, helping them know, hey, there's an issue, can you help us resolve and make sure that they're aware of it, and we've done that.
Great. Anything else?
I wasn't able to attend Winterfest, but hopefully it went well, even though there wasn't snow.
Saw some Facebook posts, so
good.
A few people showed up.
And that's really all I had on my.
Thank you, Councilman Baird.
The only thing I could think of, I'm working with the police department and city manager to start working towards fixing one of the issues that we've seen kind of being a problem in our community. That's dogs running around, unregistered, and just dogs out of their yards. We've had a few dog bites. We've had one recently that was pretty bad, and in the last few years we've had others that were bad as well. So there's just the police chief has got 2 individuals that he had been training as reserve officers to work with collecting and taking dogs that are strays or outside of their yards to the animal control center, and he's going to also have those reserve officers giving out citations. So they've put a post on Facebook to warn the public that this is happening, it's coming, and I've also worked to try to get the word out. But any help we can have from anyone to just make sure citizens aren't blindsided by this new enforcement that hasn't been taken, and done in the past would be good. So
I noticed Brenda put it up on Roosevelt's Facebook page, so hopefully a lot of people seen it there or saw it there.
A lot of comments. There's a lot of people that commented about it.
Positive or negative comments?
Positive.
Good.
A lot of places where there were a lot of dogs running around and a few things. There was a woman from Mighton wanted someone to come take care of it down there, so we directed her to the sheriff, and so.
That's good.
But it was all positive. There wasn't any negative that I know of.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing that
It's a great thing. It's hard to keep the momentum. You get that, and I appreciate you doing that. When I first came on, we were just starting the animal shelter, and it was almost a nightmare for me personally on it. But I appreciate what you're doing there, Dave, and the encouragement on that.
Really quickly, since you brought up the animal shelter, I just want to give a shout out to them. They're doing an excellent job. There's not very many people that would do that job, and they do a great service for our community. So, anything else?
No.
Back and wait.
Nothing new this evening.
One of the things, I have 2 quick items, and then we'll move on. My first meeting a couple weeks ago, we had quite a few motions on the table, and I didn't know exactly how to handle that, so I thought I read a little bit, and I think it'd be important for us to kind of understand the procedure as a governing body. And you guys may know this already, but I know there's a few of us that are new, so anyway, it has to deal with motions and how many can be on the floor at one time and how to address the motions. So I did educate myself, so hopefully the next meeting and meetings from here on out I won't look like a deer in the headlights. But there can be up to 3 motions on the floor at one given time. Normally the last and final motion is the one to be addressed first. So if the last motion passes, then that basically wipes the other 2 away. If it doesn't pass, then you go back to the second motion, and if that doesn't pass, you go back to the first, and so forth. So there are some motions that have to be roll call vote. That's why with the appointment we did a roll call. Ordinance changes, resolution changes have to be roll call. So if you see some slight differences in that, you'll know why. But anyway, just some good stuff at the back of the Utah League of Cities and Towns on rules of procedure. So helped me quite a bit. So I apologize for my first meeting, but I have educated myself on that, and hopefully we'll be a little more organized. Also wanted to just quickly, a couple things. If you look, I gave everybody this paper here. What it is just a brief outline. I know I've mentioned the Economic Development Committee, Arts and Parks and Rec Committee, and a few of those things. We've talked about our assignments and how those may change in the future, or how those will evolve more than just flat out change. But I just ask that everyone read that. In the beginning, it's those members that I think would be important to have at a meeting, or even as committee members. The other portion, right below that, where it starts with the numbering, is just the purposes of that committee. And so I would ask that the council look over that and see if they have anything to add as they're thinking about these things. I think it's something that we can, that'll be beneficial for our community to organize those different individuals in our community to identify areas, not only current potential, but also future potential in different industries and things. I know Councilman Waite and I have talked about it very briefly about some of those things, but it's definitely a work in progress. This is first draft, so take a look at it and see what you think.
I think it is great. Thank you.
So, and as we get closer to, working out the bugs of that, we'll hopefully come to where we can form some type of committee and be off and running that way.
Okay, Mayor, I appreciate you bringing this forward to us. I think there's some good things you can talk about from this. I'm looking at some of these assumptions you and management are visiting about some of these things that really fit where. Our Economic Development Committee here, I see part of that maybe having a dual role, economic development and perhaps infrastructure development.
Sure.
Because some of the economic development, infrastructure development are not always the same.
Sure.
So I think that would be something to consider. I would propose maybe we even look at having those kind of housed in a different house, the two of them together. So that as we talk infrastructure, we have the right people at the table. As we talk more economic development that has to do with some infrastructure, but not necessarily maybe where gas lines or water lines or sewer lines or power lines go. It could be after the fact.
Sure.
Conversation. So that's just a thing I would recommend for the council to consider, maybe dividing that out. But I overall like the idea of mixing up our approach.
Great. Thank you. I don't disagree. And a lot of those, some of those are hard strata. One of those, they're kind of tied in on both sides. But, Moon Lake and a few of the others that only provide a utility, some that we could bring on in at the table as needed. And so, there's definitely some flexibility in how we organize that. But so.
That's great.
Okay. One last thing that I had with the Central Utah Water at our last meeting, and I've heard it a couple of times, and I was reading through some of our minutes in the last couple of years, and at some point in time there was a push for water conservancy, and there was a proposal for a plan or at least to focus on water conservancy. Just a thought that I want to make known here is that the Central Utah District has a rebate program going on right now for water timers, smart timers. And so as we approach our conservancy, what we're looking at for conservancy, that's an option for us to send our residents to them to get a rebate on the timer for their lawns. And smart timer that I don't know if it measures the moisture that's fallen, not that any's fallen lately, but and then it adjusts accordingly to help save water and those types of things, and it's a very good rebate as well. So just a thought out there. Ryan, did you have anything for us tonight?
I have just a few things I might want to make you just aware of. Stonegate, we have connected the south line into the subdivision, so at this point the sewer line does go down to the wash, into the wash, but down to the wash, so that's where it's at. And we are making progress in the south road in the subdivision and coming up both sides now. So we are making progress there. We're excited about that, and they are getting to the point that they were behind, and they've caught up and making progress. So we're excited to see that. Our fire department is getting a hose washer, one of those items to be able to help facilitate them when they have been out on fire. Our airport, the engineering is going to get started this spring for the runway. So we'll start engineering this year and then build starting next year, just to give you an idea of where our time frame is there.
Is do we have an engineering firm already involved in that?
Yeah,
then,
so
right?
at that point, we have, with the airport, we have a 5-year contract that we do.
Okay.
And that 5-year contract at this point is with JB,
Okay.
so they would be the ones that would do that. Their contract will come due at the end of this project, and then we'll take it back out to bid.
Thank you.
With our, with building and zoning, kind of those kind of things coming, Burger King has selected a contractor, so they're moving forward. I have talked to them. We previously talked about the sidewalks between Burger King and Palmer's Tire, and I have an appointment tomorrow to visit with the contractor to see what we can do there and work on issues that way. The school is progressing. They're not expecting to have the high school graduation there, but they are expecting to have a lot of that complete, and they will be ready by the fall to have classes. Strata's lines, the water and sewer lines are, the sewer's all in that infrastructure out there, and the water lines mostly installed. Recreation, junior jazz is winding down, and boys baseball, that's a new one for us. We have partnered with them to provide them with using our online signups. So we've reached out and said, hey, we have a lump sum fee. If you want to sign up online instead of by paper, we'd be able to facilitate that for no additional cost to us or them. And so that's kind of a good partnership.
Great.
So we have done that one, and the golf course is open. So if you, with the weather we have, we've opened the golf course this year. We only closed the golf course in the month of January. So it was open December, right before Christmas. We had our tournament, and we're just starting to open it up again. So feel free to enjoy that. The water department is working on maintenance issues and just kind of getting caught up, but we have finally installed the tower. The tower is starting to read, and so we'll continue to make progress there. So we're excited for that. Anyway, so that's kind of where we are, a summary of different areas. So
I expect the golf course, if we don't get any more rain, will look the same in July that it does right now.
I believe that's probably true. It might be just as easy to golf now as it is then.
Yeah. Good deal. Well, thank you, Ryan. We do have an item, closed session. Really quick, pending discussion items. The chapter by chapter detail. I've asked Ryan, maybe not this next meeting because it sounds like we'll have a fairly large one, but the one after that. But he'll be sending out the next section of code that he wants us to look at and examine for approval. And so hopefully we can anticipate that coming and be prepared, not maybe for the next council meeting, but the one after. We do have a need tonight to go into closed session for personnel. Before we do that, very quickly, anyone? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, can I still limit your time? All of yours?
Sure. Normally do it right at the beginning, but come on up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Clarissa Lindstrom. I'm a local daycare provider. I'm licensed by the state. Last week, I met with the planning and zoning, and they approved me to go ahead and start the process to get my business license through Roosevelt City. I do have a little portfolio here with kind of our parking, our exit plan, and some of the activities we do have, if anybody would like to look at it. Would anybody like to look at it?
You know, we may, if you can leave it with us, then, you know, when we get a minute,
Okay.
I'm sure a few of us would be happy to.
Okay.
And excited for you in your new venture.
Thank you.
And
this one, it would have come through conditional use through planning and zoning, and so would have normally been added to the agenda for you to act on. So she'll need to come to
It's scheduled for the February 20th.
February 20th.
February 20th? Okay. I was told today.
So we will need to, where it's conditional use, we'll need to approve that, I'm sure. If you'll will you get the information, shoot it out to us so that we can,
It's part, I mean, I've already got it scheduled for the
Okay.
20th. And,
but do you have her information here with her parking and things like that?
not unless it's part of what you gave
It'd
kind
be
of.
the same as what the planning and zoning was emailed probably, because she had drawings with that we got.
I've got all of that.
Okay.
It wasn't
Board
even
of
in
Solid
there.
Waste, that packet we got.
This was just
Yeah,
a
if you
little
could,
bit
if-
extra.
as long as it's,
If you want to get it to me, I'll include it. There's also another issue for council's approval that happened to planning and zoning. That's also scheduled for the February 20th meeting.
okay, great. Yeah, I just want to make sure that the information you had there, as long as you have it and could get it in the packet for
She
us,
said she has extra, so.
then
Yeah,
that would be great.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I have it right
And we
What's-
promise in between now and the next meeting, we'll look at it and
Perfect.
be ready for you.
What's the address?
635 West, 150 North.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry that was a confusion for you. I think the planning and zoning meeting last week didn't give you enough time to get on the agenda for tonight, but
We have changed, and this will be
prior
good.
to that, we would have had time.
Yeah, we have changed, and this will be good to reiterate. We did approve a resolution. All information for our council meetings is to be submitted 8 days prior to our meeting, so that we do have time to look at that as a council and do that. So I know you were unaware, and we apologize for that, but we'll definitely get you on the next one and be ready for you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we do have a closed session item, personnel, tonight. And we appreciate everybody being here. May not take long, but so if you want to hang out, great. If not,
I just had one idea for the dog thing. Is if it's not gonna take long, I'll wait and.
okay. Well, go ahead if you'd like.
Well, I was just thinking because I remember when we first moved to town and you hear about the dog pictures. I remember my sister-in-law and brother-in-law saying that they got a ticket one time and that their financial situation was such that they couldn't pay the ticket and get the dog out. So I was wondering what your thoughts were about maybe issuing a warning. Not like once per dog, but once per.
Maybe we'll do a layaway program.
Well, because this is the problem though. You get the dogs off the street, but then they're stuck in the shelter.
That is.
And
No.
the shelter is stinky enough. They do great with what they have.
I think a warning is,
Overload it.
personally, I like the idea of one warning, but if it keeps happening, I
Exactly.
mean,
That's, you'd have to keep track.
Yeah.
Because you could have people abusing that.
and I'm sure the
not what it's
police,
for.
citation, their system probably tracks warnings. They can see if they've had a warning for that already,
I
but
just
we
think
can talk
it's-
with the police chief if,
Sometimes they're not licensed, and it's hard to find out how to warn somebody if they, you don't know who
Well,
it
when
is.
they come and pick, well, of course, I guess they don't tell you that, oh, that's my dog. They just say, oh, what a cute dog. I'll talk to him.
And it's a hard
It's hard
thing.
to keep people honest, but
Oh,
that was
Mayor.
just a thought, because you don't want to overload.
he raised his hand, sorry.
Can I make a comment to that? I'm totally not in on this, but if you give a warning to someone, it's the dog's getting out because they don't have a security knot. So are they gonna spend the money to get the citations paid off and the dog out? Are they gonna pay to get their fence fixed or whatever to keep the dog in? So no matter what, there's gonna be finances involved.
Well, yeah, I get it, but if you could
Well-
mitigate some of that so that
Right.
they could spend the
I
money on
just
fixing
had that
it.
thought. I just wanted to-
Yeah.
That's
We'll,
a good point.
yeah, and this,
We'll
that'll be another
discuss these
council meeting.
items, yeah.
But we'll discuss it. That's a good thought, and we
There's
appreciate that.
lots of concern
Yeah.
about animals
Yeah.
on both sides, and
Mhm.
it's a very emotional experience for many. So some of us are emotionally because we don't have dogs, but we have lots of their witness on our yards, and others just feel like they should. It's a big dynamic in the world nowadays with animals, and that's a really touchy area.
I'm hoping with the information that we've given out, and hopefully by publicizing, people will realize and know that those things will take place. Hopefully they'll take action and make sure. And I know it's hard because sometimes there's just that once in a great while. But we'll talk about that.
And I would think that the majority of people in our city would want dogs in their own yards. It's a consequence, unfortunately, if you have a dog, that's one of the risks you take. And that's my thought, but I do understand too, because I was a newlywed at one time and we were just struggling like crazy to pay the bills and sometimes when you get a ticket, it kills the budget, so I can understand that, but it's hard, yeah.
Good thoughts, good comments.
Thank you for the comments.
I would
Thank
entertain
you
a
for
motion
serving.
to
Mayor, I'd make a motion to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation and personnel matters.
Thanks for being here. Did you have other issues?